Miss Causer, we can start.
Okay. Can you hear me, everybody? Fantastic. Okay, so just wanted to send out a warm welcome to everybody who's joined us this evening. Thank you very much for taking time to come and listen in to our GCSE options evening meeting this evening. Hopefully you'll find it really informative. It will set out what the process looks like and is a really good introduction on helping the Year 9s choose their options this evening. Well, by the end of this evening, you'll have the information to start making those choices, I should say. I just wanted to hijack it ever so slightly, just to thank everybody for all the support that they've been putting into the Year 9s learning at home this week. It's been a really major success so far. I've been really impressed with how they've all just got into this new way of working once more, probably very much helped by the 2 weeks practice that we had just prior to Christmas. So just wanted to thank everybody. There will be questions and an opportunity to ask those questions throughout the meeting in our chat. We will be monitoring those questions, and if there's anything that we can do towards the end, please just put those messages in there. So I hope you enjoy the evening, and I will be passing directly over to Miss Smith.
Thank you very much, and welcome. And just really to acknowledge what Jude's just been saying, how impressed we are with the way in which the children have made a start to this term. I hope you found that our new routines are ones that will work for you, and I'm particularly pleased with the feedback we've had so far from parents around the use of roll call, and you'll see in a minute how important that roll call period is going to be for Year 9 children over the next few weeks. So Happy New Year, and welcome back, and thank you again for the support you've given. Now, normally this evening is one where we have to, it's difficult to imagine it these days. We haven't had a crowd for about 10 months, have we? But normally the options evening is one of the best attended evenings that we run in the school. And for those of you with older children, you'll be familiar with the idea of the Maze Hill Hall being absolutely packed with people incredibly close together. And we usually use the gallery and we spill out into the canteen. And obviously all of those things are things that we've not been able to provide for you tonight. So what I'm hoping is that what we can do today is take you through the options process that we are going to be running with your children and with you, and explain how the next 6 or 7 weeks will look in terms of the information that we are going to give you and give your children, and explain how you can then go through the process with your child of helping them to choose the subjects that they would like to do at GCSE. Now, my colleagues will be familiar with these stories, but I often use these moments to think back of the experience I had as a parent when my children were choosing their GCSEs. And I will say that although she is 30 now, my daughter will regularly remind me of the process and how she didn't like the decisions that she felt that we made her make at that time. So I suppose my word to all of you is work with your child. My learning point is that I possibly made a mistake by forcing her down a particular line that she was clear wasn't going to work for her. And I think she probably made a point over the next 2 years of making sure it didn't work for her so that she could be proved right. But I think, you know, as we went through and worked with our next child, we learned a lot about the way in which we needed to listen to our child as well as explore the options with them. So what I hope you're going to be doing is finding out about the subjects yourself, but also looking not just about whether it is geography or history or French or Spanish or something like that, but actually looking down into the detail of what the course involves, what sort of skills your child might need to develop whilst they're doing that course, the way in which they're going to be assessed, and just generally thinking about the experiences that they will have whilst they're doing that course, and using your knowledge of your child to help them understand whether that sort of learning style is going to be one that they are going to work well with and enjoy. So whilst it's about the subjects, it is also about the content of those subjects. It's also about the way in which they are going to be assessed, and it's about the style. If it's a subject that is going to involve a huge amount of writing and reading, and your child is struggling with that, then you might want to reflect on whether that is a subject that is necessarily the right one for them. On the other hand, if that is their passion and they really are interested with it, then I think we all know that that passion and interest will often help a child to develop really well in that area. So their skills in reading and writing, for instance, might improve enormously because they are doing a subject that they enjoy. So there is a huge amount to think about, and that's why we really wanted to not delay this evening, because this 6-week process is an important one, and 6 weeks, 7 weeks is about the amount of time that you need in order to work through this. There is no way that we would want you to feel that at the end of today's session you've got to fill a form in and make a decision. Absolutely not. And Mark Rogers will be talking to you about that later on. So my other message to you is, it is very tempting to be looking at the teachers who are delivering the courses, and we know that teaching staff come and go, not that much, but you cannot pin all your hopes on having a particular teacher to teach a particular subject. So the choices should be made around the subject rather than the teacher, and equally they shouldn't be made around what someone's friends are doing, because in the same way, friendship groups chop and change, and it isn't necessarily the best thing to do exactly what your friend is doing. It is absolutely right to think about what is right for you. So finally, what I want to say is take time over this. Don't rush into anything. Use the information we are going to provide you and your child with over the next few weeks, and really use it as a great opportunity to talk to your child about what is out there and what is on offer. So I'm going to sign off in a second. I'm going to be looking, as Ms. Causer will be, at the questions that you type into the options if you want to. We will do our best to answer some of them as we go along, and then at the end I might well be able to either answer some of the questions myself or pass over to my colleagues for some answers. So thank you all for joining us, and Mark, I'm going to pass to you now.
Okay, thank you, Miss. I hope everyone can see and hear me. Just to reiterate, Happy New Year to everybody, and thanks again to all of the support that we're getting at the moment. I was fortunate enough to teach Miss Yu's Year 9 group today, French, and we had a fantastic lesson. It was absolutely brilliant, and the work that's being produced, so thank you. I'm going to talk to you now about the process, effectively, of what happens now. So there's going to be a big change to students' curriculum. At the moment, there are really a very broad range of subjects. We've got a very broad Key Stage 3 curriculum, with all these different subjects being studied. Now, some of them we're going to continue with, so all students will continue to study maths, English, and they'll do a GCSE in both English language and literature. Science, where they'll be taught discretely as physics, chemistry and biology, and then they can either have that as a combined science qualification, which is 2 GCSEs, or triple, where you get an individual GCSE in each one of those subjects. And of course, students will continue to study core. But on top of that, they're going to choose 3 options. Okay? And this is a huge choice. They'll get 2 double lessons for each one of those options every week. So that's 12 lessons in all. That's 40% of all of their time in school will come down to the decisions which are made over the next 6 or 7 weeks. So let's have a look at what those subjects could be. I've grouped them here into four pretty broad groups. The first is the EBAC group, which stands for the English Baccalaureate. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But they are broadly the most academic subjects. We offer other academic subjects in business studies, computer science, and religious studies. We've got a broad offering of creative and practical subjects in terms of technology with product design and food and nutrition, and then art and design, which covers either fine art, photography or textiles, and then we also offer a GCSE in PE, and then also music and drama. And then finally, we offer 2 BTEC qualifications in health and social care and sport. I think it's probably worth talking about those just very briefly about what the difference is between a GCSE and a BTEC. So BTECs as a vocational course means that there's a greater amount of coursework involved. However, in both health and social care and sport, there's still an exam element. It's just smaller than on average in GCSE. Similarly with GCSEs, there are still GCSEs like PE, for instance, where there is a coursework element. It's just slightly smaller than what it used to be since the qualifications were reformed in 2017-18. The big thing with BTECs, though, is that rather than being assessed right at the end of year 11, BTECs are assessed throughout. So, for instance, BTEC Sport, the first on-demand exam which the students might sit would actually be in year 10. Okay? So BTECs give students the opportunity, providing they're organised, to be able to work through some of that qualification and actually get it assessed and banked throughout the year 10 and 11, rather than having to wait all the way to the end for those exams. And I think that's a big thing to consider when you're thinking about those BTECs. But certainly our offer in BTECs is really, really strong across both sport and health and social care. I said that I will talk briefly in more detail around the EBAC, the English Baccalaureate. So if a student gains a grade of 5 or above in maths, either English, literature or language, their science qualification, either history or geography, and also a modern foreign language, that could be the French or Spanish, the 2 subjects we offer in the curriculum, or another language that a student might speak at home, then that student would be awarded what's called the English Baccalaureate. Okay? It recognises that these subjects are the most academic, they're the most rigorous, and they're the ones that are arguably most highly prized by universities and employers, and also the more competitive sixth form. I have heard people say that they are so highly prized that you can't get to university without the English Baccalaureate. That is certainly not true. It is absolutely not the case that whether or not students are eligible for university, or frankly anything, comes down to the choices specifically that they make now in terms of picking the English Baccalaureate. However, what I would say is that these subjects are really prized by those institutions and lots of employers, and they certainly do provide the very best preparation for that study. But just because you don't have it doesn't mean that you can't go to university, for instance. That isn't the case. Okay, in terms of how the choices are made, our subjects are grouped into 3 option blocks. For us, as I said, we absolutely want to support students to take the most academic, most challenging pathways. And we want to support students to choose the subjects they need to gain the English Baccalaureate. Obviously, they're already studying English, Maths and Science, but in option block A, we offer French and Spanish as our language option. Alternatives include business, religious studies, a BTEC in sport, or art qualifications. Geography and history are offered in both block B and C, and then the other subjects that I've already mentioned fill in block B. Block B is slightly more a technical area where you could choose food and nutrition or product design. It's also got 2 vocational options in health and social care and sport, Whereas option C is where more of the practical and creative subjects sit, with drama, music, for instance, more art qualifications, and PE. In terms of the process itself, we are right at the beginning of that here with the options evening. From Monday, I think, as Miss Smith mentioned earlier, form time is going to become really, really important. That roll call that students are attending from 8:30, because we're going to be using that time for heads of department to deliver either live assemblies or recorded assemblies, which can then be shared online for each individual subject, to give that key information that students are going to need and families are going to need to help them make their decision. And that will be taking place over the next 2 weeks. On Monday, the 8th of February, okay, so that's the last week of this half term. The options form itself will be released, and that's the first opportunity that you'll actually have to make your choice. Okay, so you literally cannot choose your options until Monday the 8th at the earliest. That will be available for all of that week. There is a parents' evening scheduled for the 10th of February, where obviously additional information can be shared and discussed, and then that form will need to be completed the first Monday back after half term. So there'll be a week where it's available when all of the students are in school, including the parents' evening, and then the week of half term where further consideration can be made, and then that choice has to be made by Monday the 22nd. We'll then release in the summer term exactly what the options, the final options are, and then students will receive their timetables and begin their courses in the autumn term. Now, I appreciate that this is a huge amount of information, okay, it is available to you now. If you go onto the school's website and click on the Parents tab in the top right-hand corner, you'll come through to a landing page like this, and if you click on Key Stage 4 Options Information, you will get through to our landing page. It outlines all of those key dates. And available to you right now is a booklet which summarises and probably includes anything that Miss or I have forgotten to say just now in the first few pages, outlines the process, and then also has subject pages where there's more information from all of our heads of department about each individual subject. As those heads of department start to give their assemblies to students during roll call, as I said, we'll be recording them and they'll be made available through this web page as well. So this hopefully is a one-stop shop for you to be able to come and access all the information you need. Just to repeat that once again, it's the parents icon in the top right-hand corner of the school's website, takes you through to this landing page, and the Key Stage 4 options information can be accessed through there. A very quick note on the form itself. The form that is completed for options is a Microsoft Forms form. It will need to be accessed, and that also will be accessed through that web landing page. It needs to be accessed by the student. Okay, so the student will need to log in through Microsoft in order to complete that form. They can only complete it once, okay, so please make sure that you're absolutely sure. Obviously, if there's an error or something like that, of course you can contact us, but as a default, once it's complete, you won't be able to complete it again without having to come to us to sort that out. A few important things. You can only you cannot choose a subject more than once. So, for instance, art, history, geography appear in more than one option block. You can only choose them once. BTEC sport and PE, it's either or. We don't support students. It narrows their curriculum too much if they choose both. Similarly with art, as I said earlier, art and design is actually three separate, has three versions, but they're all the same GCSE. So that means that art photography and textiles would only support a student choosing one of them. And then lastly, obviously all students so far in school have studied either French or Spanish. We wouldn't support a student changing to the other language at this point. I think in terms of the process, that's absolutely everything. So just a final word from me. We will do everything that we can to make sure that that students receive either their first or reserve choice, and we will work very, very hard to do that. As Ms. Smith said earlier, making sure that students are studying subjects that they themselves want to, their choices, is so important, and we will do everything we can to make sure that we can accommodate first and reserve choices. If we can't, we will contact you very early in the process. It won't be the case that you don't find that out until the summer term. We will get in touch with you before that to discuss any alternative options. We do, however, say that it could be the case that a subject might not run. There have to be enough students choosing a subject, and again, we would reserve the right that if not enough students chose a subject, we would get back in touch with you to tell you that that subject wasn't running. But again, we would actively contact you. It wouldn't be a case of you finding that out at a later date. And similarly, if there are any other changes, we will make you aware of that. A word around all of this information. Obviously, there's been a huge amount of change for the current Year 11s that have just been announced. Also, their predecessors Year 11s around the pandemic. Everything that I've said to you assumes that that we've recovered from that situation, and all the information I'm giving to you around qualifications in particular assumes a return to what we would normally expect, and that's hopefully what of course we'll have by 2023. Just to let you know, none of this is affected by any of the information that you're hearing right now about how exams are changing for themselves. So I'll finish by just putting back onto those key dates and hand back to Miss in case there have been any questions coming through.
Thank you. So we've had some good questions which I've been publishing, so hopefully you've seen them. So just a few sort of going over what Mark's just been saying. So one of them is the importance of roll call anyway, as about starting the school day for the next few weeks. But for the next 2 weeks, we're going to be squeezing into that roll call time information from subject teachers about what their subject content is all about. We've always done this, and we've always done it via assemblies to the children. So I think the bonus this year is that you as parents will get to see that information as well, because we are recording it and we will be publishing it. So that's a big opportunity, I think, for everyone. The additional thing is that we're very much hoping that even though we're all locked down at the moment, we will be able to get some Year 10 students to also record little messages about their experience so far of the subjects that they have chosen, so that students who can't bump into people in the playground and ask questions and everything will still get the opportunity to hear from other students who are following various subjects. I hope that will be useful. The other thing that we are very aware of is that you as parents have not had the opportunities that you would normally have had to make contact with the teachers. The situation since March has made that very difficult. We have now got some software which means that we are going to be able to run parents' evenings. So your parents' evening on the 10th of February will go ahead in the way that you would expect. Well, no, not in the way that you would expect. It will go ahead, and it will be done online through the software called School Cloud, which we're going to be using, and more information will come to you about that. But by that time, your children will have undertaken a number of mid-year assessments, obviously not in quite the way that we had planned, but they will have access to a number of assessments, which again will provide the data that we'll be able to talk to you about at that parents' evening. Now, I can see that a number of questions are coming up. Miss Causa, Mr. Rogers, do you want to answer any of those questions or ask me the questions so that we can respond to everyone generally? How do we want to do that?
I can go through the questions that I can see for sure, Miss. So the first one's around astronomy, which I would hope would be offering as usual with the support of the Greenwich Observatory. The website for options, so it's the school's website, which is www.thejohnrowenschool.org.uk. And then it's the top right hand corner of that where there's a parent portal that can be clicked through. There's a question around triple science, which of course will be offered, but the question is around curriculum time, which isn't something that I can answer at this time. In terms of our timetable for next year, will have a lot of input, not least the outcome of this options process. It's only at that point that we can start confirming provisions for individual subjects. So I would have to delay a response to that probably until more like the summer term. GCSEs, yeah, and in terms of when the GCSE exams, they'll be scheduled for 2023. In terms of the timing, this year, had they gone ahead, or certainly the plan for them was to be slightly delayed and to begin after the late May half term, so they're taking place in June. But certainly, our current Year 9 students should prepare, imagining that they're going to take place in May as usual. As I said, there are on-demand tests for BTEC that happen before that, and other coursework elements. There's things like language oral exams which take place beforehand as well, but certainly the traditional exams taking place in the exam hall begin in May 2023. There is a question asking around are children only allowed to pick 3 subjects in total? So yes, but they should also choose a reserve for each from each block. Okay, so in total they should be picking 6 choices, 3 first choices, 1 from each option block A, B, C. But in each option block they need to pick a reserve, and as I said, we will work hard to try and make sure as many students get as many first choices as they can. Failing that, we will use the reserve choice, but if ever that then becomes problematic, we will get back in touch with the student and the family. And I think, oh no, I can see more. Hold on. Yeah, there is drama. So that's the choice. Is drama an option? Yes, it is an option in option C. And in terms of the summer term, yeah, I appreciate. So I think Ms. Smith has answered that. So May. Option 3, Ms. Smith has answered already that the 22nd of February, that's the first Monday back after half term. There's a question regarding psychology. So no, psychology is not offered. There is a cohort in the current year 11 who are finishing that through, but it wasn't offered last year and won't be offered this year.
There's a question in the unpublished bit, which I'll just publish, about the difference in academic rigour between GCSEs and BTECs and the, I've just hit the wrong button now, but the likelihood of universities accepting them. And I think there's a pretty strong answer we can give to that, isn't there, in terms of the reformed BTECs?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, you know, and this applies even more, frankly, at post-16 in the sixth form. But BTEC qualifications are absolutely as valued. Okay, so vocational qualifications are highly valued. There is, they are rigorous. They have exam elements, and certainly the, as I said, as I think I was alluding to earlier, the organisation and long-term commitment subject that is required to gain merit, distinction star grades at BTEC is very significant and highly valued.
So another question that's just popped up is around the support for children with SEND, and I would say always that the Senko, Miss Macaulay, and the whole inclusion team led by Miss Shake would be absolutely people to discuss specific needs with and to get that particular support. Now, I would suggest that you could do that by email and phone calls right from tomorrow, but that at the parents' evening there will certainly be an opportunity for you to book an appointment with members of the inclusion team to have those discussions. The parents' evening is on the 10th of February, which is just before half term. So by then the children will have had 5 or 6 weeks of information flowing through to them. They'll have done their assessments, and that we felt was a really good time for us to then meet with you as parents and to give you subject specific information as well.
Well, I'm seeing some more questions coming through here. There's a question around French and Spanish. So yes, if a student is proficient in a home language, then absolutely we can support. So for instance, here we've got a student who has been studying French, speaks Spanish in the community, and we could discuss a move to Spanish in that case. At the same time, if a student is so proficient that maybe they don't need to be taught the subject, well, we could look at entering them for their qualification for the GCSEs, so they get the qualification, but they could then use that option to choose something else and broaden their curriculum even more, or indeed continue to study the language that they're already studying. But yes, that's a really good question. So thank you. I think it must be Bruno's dad. Thank you. Photography. I see a question around photography. Photography, yes. So studying both art and photography. What you need to be aware of is that they are the same GCSE. Okay, obviously, the skill set between the two is actually the medium is different. Okay, in the same way that the medium of textiles is different, but the assessment criteria are exactly the same. The qualification is the same, and certainly it's something where we wouldn't naturally suggest that to a student, and therefore, if there's a specific reason, of course we can discuss that. But that would be something for continued discussion, I'd suggest. I think I will leave the specifics of the exact differences between combined and triple science to communication from Miss Williams, the Director of Science. She'll be communicating around that. It's quite specific, and I will leave that to her, but she will be in touch soon.
And there's a question also, Mark, around sort of level of choice as to whether you take double or triple, and those are very guided by the science team and the ability of someone, because basically there is no additional time to deliver triple science, so we need youngsters on the triple science course who have the capacity to work at a much greater pace and to cover 3 subjects in the time that their peers are covering 2. So those are discussions that will be live and active throughout year 9 in order to make sure that we've got the right people on the triple course for year 10. So parents will be contacted, and that's the sort of thing to raise at the parents' evening.
And following on another science question is a question about whether or not students need to study physics, biology and chemistry, and the answer is absolutely yes. So regardless of whether or not a student is doing triple, where they're actually getting a separate GCSE in each one of those sciences, for the combined qualification they will sit discrete exams for physics, biology and chemistry, and they will actually be taught it separately. At the moment, if you look at your son or daughter's timetable, it will say it's science, but next year they will have a specific chemistry teacher and then a different and they'll get a double lesson for each individual science. There's a question asking for just a clarification around the EBAC and the impact on university admissions, and I'll just reiterate, it is not a requirement for university admission. There will be students who are walking around Oxford and Cambridge University who don't have a GCSE in French or Spanish or history or geography, but speaking honestly, there just won't be very many of them. And so what we say is that we feel that the EBAC, that suite of academic subjects, that provides the best preparation for academic study. Okay, it is not a total gatekeeper when you have to have it. But as I said, if you've got aspirations for university, I think that you will stack the deck in your favour by choosing it, but you certainly won't completely close the door by not choosing it.
So there's a question that's just come in around the ability to swap a subject if you're not doing very well in it. I think parents will probably appreciate that that is actually incredibly challenging for us, given that we need to fill up the seats in different courses. So the flexibility to move isn't there, which is why we want to put so much emphasis in making sure that we are making the right choices whilst in year 9, so that when we start the courses in year 10, they are the courses that children are going to stick with. There actually, in the end, isn't a huge amount of choice. And I think we need to bear that in mind, but it is really important that we therefore take our time over this and we really think about, as I was saying earlier, the skill set you need, the interest levels and everything else. And, you know, the advice of the members of staff here who will work with you around that. I mean, you know, every case is an individual case, but we absolutely don't encourage movement once decisions are made, because it is very unsettling and generally not very successful as well.
Moving through, there's a question around there's a language specific question around, you know, that switch, and so, you know, I think we're here to discuss. So any move away from the language that a student's been studying for 2.5 years is one that should not be taken lightly at all, and isn't one that I would naturally encourage. But there might be specific reasons, and so that's something to contact Ms Hughes, the head of MFL, and discuss what those reasons are and see what we can do to support that. I think we've answered parent evening the 10th of February, and that there'll be specific SEN support, both from Ms Jacquet in terms of communicating around options, but also with the inclusion team being available at that parents' evening.
Is drama GCSE hard, and do we need extra lessons to get better grades? I like to think that all GCSEs are of a particular hardness. Drama's an interesting one, because sometimes youngsters think all it is going to be doing is acting, and there's actually a considerable amount of analytical work watching. Oh, I suppose I was going to say going to shows, but I can't imagine doing that at the moment. But the drama GCSE is more than just acting, and I think it's for those sorts of reasons that I would want people to read very carefully what the specification is and how the qualification is assessed, because sometimes it's difficult to remember that drama is also a written subject. It's actually quite a challenging subject in terms of the analysis of performance and everything, and yet it's also a hugely enjoyable subject for many people, and that enjoyment sometimes carries them through some of the more difficult parts. So those are the conversations that I would want you to be having with your child, following the information from the subject teachers, and as a result of a little bit of research as well. And of course, making sure that you have those meetings at the parents' evening, so that you can speak to the teacher and just find out exactly what the course is about. And I think we've covered quite a lot of the questions, and I think the questions are all along the same flow. What I would like to feel is that if we need another evening like this, then we will run one. what we will try and do, and I'm not going to promise to do this in the next couple of days, but in the next week or so, we would like to be able to put some of these questions down in a frequently asked questions section that again will go on the website so that you've got that information. I hope most of them will be answered in the booklet that is on the website, and of course as a result of your child having a number of these meetings with teachers to find out more about the subjects. We do everything we can every year to try and provide as much information as possible. And I think the real decision this year was not to cut this process short because of the circumstances we find ourselves, but if anything, to make it more extensive and to give you more opportunity to get involved. And I am really pleased about the fact that we are going to be able to record presentations that the teachers are doing to the children so that you as adults can see them as well, watch them again with your child, ask those questions, talk about it. And, you know, by the 10th of February, you will all be experts on all of the information and be able to pose those questions directly to the teachers at the parents' evening as well. So from my point of view, I would like to thank you all for joining us. It's been great that so many of you have been able to attend. This has been recorded, so when you feel you've got the strength, you can always watch it again. And if you've got friends and other families that you know weren't able to attend this tonight, then you can obviously refer them to this. And again, this will be clipped, the link to it will be clipped onto that page on the website, so that that is your one go-to place for information about options and the process for getting ready for September 21. Mark, do you want to say any more?
I'd say that there's one very specific question actually, which has come up, saying about whether or not you should choose a subject twice in another option block as a reserve to try and improve your chance of getting it. It's a really great question. So yes, you could do that, and it might increase your chance of getting it. At the same time, it also limits it. So if you think about it, if you put down a subject twice, it means overall you've only got 5 choices listed, and therefore you end up effectively with a slightly smaller one. So yes, you could, but it wouldn't. It's not guaranteed to act in your favour.
All right. Okay. So thank you, Miss Causer. Do you want to say anything?
No, I think everything has been covered my end, but I hope everybody has a lovely evening and lots to think about. If there are any questions and you want to speak to me directly, please feel free to email me. I'm mostly working at home this week and this evening. So email is a preferable option, but I will try and make calls when I'm in school next as well. Thank you. Have a good evening.
And thank you all. So we look forward to seeing your children at 8:30 tomorrow morning on their roll call, and to working with them and with you on making sure that we get a really good options process this year. Thank you all for joining us.